Hey everyone, this is your spoiler warning for Insomniac's Spider-Man 2. So I beat Marvel's Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 in 2 days after 5 years of waiting for it.
Then why do I feel so melancholy?
To be clear, the game was great and did make me cry, just not where I thought it would, not where I hoped it would, and not where I feel like it would have counted the most, which is in the relationship between Peter and Harry. And honestly, I don't even really know why that the climax just didn't quite work for me. So this video, more than anything, is just me trying to piece that together and hopefully bridge that gap.
Gaming cookie guy!
Entertainment.
So the first act of the story, I'd say, is actually pretty perfect. Miles and Peter are in full swing. Both of them are still struggling to balance being Spider-Man with their everyday responsibilities. Miles is using Spider-Man to escape his everyday life, to escape writing his college entrance exam, and Peter has Spider-Man as an impediment to his life. We see straight away he gets fired from his brand new job one day in because of being Spider-Man.
Your job is to protect these students, not to abandon them. You're fired.
Balance is really the thesis of the early part of this story. Even Mary Jane is susceptible to it. She's forced to balance between writing she is passionate about and writing that will get the clicks. And this theme is punctuated by a flashback to Aunt May giving advice to a Peter Parker who is just starting his journey as Spider-Man.
Balance is a process, not a destination.
Throughout this story, all three of our central characters lose their balance in some way and have to regain it. Kind of. At this point, Harry Osborn re-enters Peter's life, and Insomniac does a great job of making these two feel like old friends despite Harry having almost no presence in the first game. We get to spend a significant portion of time, like 3 entire dedicated levels, just to the relationship of these two characters. They really put in the work. Harry then hires Peter on to this foundation whose goal is to heal the world. And though I'm skeptical because it's a corporation in a video game, it's a corporation in general, it really does seem like he's trying to do good here. It seems like Harry Osborn is a genuinely good person, which is nice, but that's what starts to provide the first bit of dissonance between what we're expecting and what we're getting. After helping to save lives at Coney Island, Harry discovers that the exosuit that has kept him alive has also given him superpowers. And yet, again, Insomniac doesn't give us exactly what we'd expect. Harry is now actively using the Venom symbiote, and yet he remains a good person. And at no point really yet has Harry shown any signs of anger, selfishness, confidence, yes, but none of the traits that we have come to associate with the black goo alien. And so fast forwarding after Harry gets the symbiote back and goes full Venom, it's a pretty jarring difference. And I also think that the symbiote in general, with how it was presented in this game, robs us of a quintessential element of any Spider-Man story: responsibility. At the end of this story, the city is in ruins. The whole world was put in grave danger. Who is responsible? Kind of Norman, kind of Craven, but really it's just Venom, not Harry, mind you, Venom. And that's fine. You need a villain, and Venom fills that role pretty well. He's a good antagonist, but it does rob us of some of those personal stakes, the personal connections when your protagonist can write off their bad decisions as not being in control. And that's where I'd like to jump in and make a little bit of a change. I'd like to change how the symbiote works in this universe. And so in my version of Insomniac's Spider-Man 2, the symbiote is not inherently evil. It doesn't want to terraform the earth. It doesn't have a predisposition to make people angry. All it wants, like pretty much any organism, simple to complex, is to survive. When it's with Harry, of course, it survives by keeping Harry alive. And it learns from Harry about wanting to heal the world. That is what it gets from Harry in this symbiotic relationship. That is its first desire aside from merely baseline survival. Cut to Peter being stabbed, and suddenly a new feeling very quickly is introduced to this symbiote they're now calling Agent Venom. This feeling of anger, hate, this desire for revenge. You hurt my friend, I am going to hurt you.
Ow!
That feeling is only reinforced, re-energized when Harry gives the suit over to Peter. That need to survive, that panic to survive, coupled towards the anger towards the person that nearly killed him. The symbiote, in its small lifespan, now knows that it wants to survive, it wants to help the world, and it wants revenge on Kraven. And all of that adds up to a voice in Peter Parker's head telling him to kill Kraven. And it is that echo chamber of emotion, of negative emotions, that births Venom as we know him. Okay, so what does that change actually do to the plot? I mean, aside from a throwaway line from Dr. Connors about how the symbiote is a blank slate that learns from its host, there's not really much else to change for the first 3/4 of this story. During black-suited Spider-Man's fight with Kraven, it still takes Miles convincing Peter not to kill Kraven, but it's more personal because this is really something Peter thought and wanted to do, and not just something the suit is puppeteering him to do. Miles, who by this point has overcome his own demon in Mr. Negative, in a small reference to Spider-Man 3 I'd like to make, will say to Peter, yeah, this hate, this anger that you hold, it's a part of you that you can't ignore, but you can choose to be the better parts of yourself. You don't have to be those negative feelings. You can choose to be greater.
Whatever battle we have raging inside us, we always have a choice. My friend Harry taught me that. He chose to be the best of himself.
And Peter shedding off Venom in that moment and sparing Kraven is reflective of his choice to be greater. At this point, I'd like to change how Harry gets the symbiote back, make him a truly tragic figure. He's not going to take it back in a fit of rage. That's not the character we've seen to this point. Yeah, it makes absolute sense. He's also fighting for survival, but that's not the direction I want to take it. Harry and Peter talk, and he accepts that there might not be a cure. And Peter has to live with the guilt that he can't give the symbiote back to Harry because he, in large part, poisoned it. Peter gives it back to Dr. Connors with the understanding that he is going to destroy it. And it is Norman who takes it from Dr. Connors and gives it back to Harry, who is now mutated into what we know as Venom. It takes him over. He is too weak to resist, and Venom resumes its base instinct, its one mission: go kill Kraven the Hunter. After Venom succeeds in his primary goal, we still have the scene between Venom and Harry. Venom convinces him to let him heal the world in the only way that Venom knows how, by giving everybody symbiotes. That's the only way Venom can be sure that everyone can be their best self. Meanwhile, Martin Lee uses his power to reset the dormant symbiote still in Peter. He takes it back to that blank slate, and Peter fills this rebirthed symbiote with all the positivity, all the hope, everything that it means to be Spider-Man. That is what creates anti-venom. Before our final showdown, Dr. Connors tells Spider-Man the only way to kill the symbiote is to kill its host while they're bonded. Norman tells Spider-Man that if he kills his son, he'll make him regret it. And we get into the fight. It goes as it does in the original, but when the time comes, I'd like to put one more scene in between Harry and Peter. We could say their symbiotes got entangled or whatever. Put them in that same scene that Venom and Harry were having a conversation in. Peter says he's sorry. This is all his fault. Harry tells him that it's okay, but he has to end it. He has to save the world. Maybe it's not fair, but for a little while, he got a second chance. He shouldn't have even been alive to see this, but he got to spend more time with his best friend. He got to establish a foundation that will hopefully outlive them both and do some real good in the world. And he got to fight alongside his hero, Peter Parker. At the end of the first Insomniac Spider-Man game, Peter has the choice to save Aunt May or let the rest of the world suffer. He's given a similar choice here, only instead of passively letting somebody die, he must actively kill them. And so, like in the original game, Spider-Man kills his best friend. He kills Harry, he kills Venom. But in my version, there's no resurrections. Norman sees Spider-Man carrying out his son's dead body and vows revenge, setting up the third game. And though all this seems pretty bleak, there is still hope. In the wake of tragedy, we see the city heal, pull itself together, and put up art, maybe even statues of Spider-Man defeating Venom. And of course, that just doesn't sit right with Peter. And this is where he decides to formally hang up his webs and let Miles take over. Peter wants to focus on the foundation. He wants to bolster Harry's legacy and make the world a better place in the right way. Also, he feels far too guilty to put on that mask. He is Spider-Man no more, which leaves some pretty interesting directions for the third game. We cut to a montage. Peter taking his suit, putting it into a box and putting it deep into his closet, putting on a lab coat and trying to do some real good. MJ starting her podcast, also doing her best to make an impact in the world despite the challenges that presents. And Miles swinging proudly as New York's one and only Spider-Man. Finally, we cut back to the almost completely destroyed Emily May Foundation. We pan to a blossom flowering on Emily's tree. Pan down to a plaque that simply reads, "Heal the world, Emily Osborn." Well, that's my version of Spider-Man 2 anyway. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you liked any of these changes or if you had some of your own in mind. I do want to say just again that I absolutely loved the original game. I so much appreciate all the work that Insomniac put into this, into building this world, and I am so looking forward to the third game. I will see you then.